Hey ladies, how you doing? You guys doing okay? Looking for bugs and worms? Yep. Always on the hunt for more food. So, just a bit of an update on how things are going on out here. We've got a big old pile of ground cherries in there. The plant's pretty much done producing for the year, so I figured I'd just chuck it in there, let the chickens grab whatever's still ripening up, and enjoy the fruits of my labor. The scratch pad over here has been doing pretty good. I've been throwing lots of fresh organic material in here. The chickens have been gobbling it up and pooping it out, scratching it and mixing it up, and so I should get a pretty good pile of compost out of this in the next couple of weeks. They've definitely done a number on the lawn, but it'll grow back. And they're doing good. Trying to make some changes here out in the garden. I've moved the greenhouse structure outside the garden area. That should make things a little bit easier to move, modify, rehabilitate, and improve things for the next year. So, a lot of things I want to change around here. I mean, there's always new changes, new things I want to try, and well, just needed some space. I used to have a row of blackberries and raspberries in there. They got kind of tangled up and they were all jumbling together, and of course they were the wild ones, so it didn't really get a crop or a harvest out of that. I've got a problem way back there in the fruit orchard with a bunch of tangled blackberries and raspberries that was too hard to get to. So I think I'm going to either put the blackberries or the raspberries back here as their own separate patch. That's probably a good idea, and that way everything else that's out there won't get swamped by the blackberries. Here we have, yep, that's the garden. Still doing pretty good, aside from that deer-ravaged Swiss chard. It's still producing. Gotta be careful, there's more slugs and cabbage moths than ever before. I should have kept that covered up. But, I don't know, careful cleaning, and hopefully I can still get some out of that. Let's see, yeah. Getting a decent crop of butternut squash, finally. Things did not do very well in this garden. Could be because of the extreme heat we had right next to a greenhouse that was reflecting that. Could be something else. It could be because I'm so close to a tree line here, where this side of the garden doesn't do all that great. And, well, the tree line over there with the spruce right on the other side of the garden. Try and get a look through there. Where the last of those raised beds are sitting is right next to the spruce trees. And that area never really did well. Except for shade-loving plants and things that just don't need a whole lot of sunlight, because that is the south side of the garden. Out there definitely gets a lot more sun, and it's about 9:30, and the sun is still behind the trees. It's always been that way. This garden does not actually get a whole lot of light, but it's still very productive here in Zone 4. Didn't think I was going to get any beans. They decided to show me up and climb up to the top of the trellis, and I still got a crop out of it. So I'm happy. I didn't think I was going to get anything. Oh, patty pan squash. They are almost done. I've picked the last of the ripest ones. There's still a few little tiny ones growing. They're probably going to be good for salads and stuff, and I should harvest those too, just to eat them up and get them used up. squash has been relatively good this year, especially the patty pan. 8 plants, 100 pounds of food. Not too bad. I've got some lettuces and some leafy green brassica type plants like mizuna and bok choy. Did a second planting here, and they've come on pretty strong, pretty good, so I can start harvesting that stuff for some fall crops and still continue to eat salads along with some eggs and a few other fresh stuff, and yeah, still have some fresh leafy greens and fresh produce coming in out of the garden, even in, well, early fall. It's the beginning of October. This year I tried to grow parsnips and failed because I bought a package of seeds. The seeds were all duds, but I had some parsnip from last year that I did let go to seed, and they produced 1 billion seeds, quite a few of which have fallen around the area. So at least I know that when I try to grow parsnips next year, I'm not carrying a package of duds this time. They are going to do fine. The sad thing is, I got to get rid of all these. Oh well. That happens. More squash. Another whole row of squash on the other side of this fence, which used to house and carry the weight of my alderman peas. They're definitely done. There's no sense growing a second crop of alderman peas. They take so long to climb up the trellis and start producing. I could have tried another crop of my homesteader peas, which is a shorter bush type variety of pea, but I didn't feel like it. I think I already have enough peas for the winter time. The tomatoes are all gone. I had to take them out. They definitely got blighted with all the rain. So those harvests didn't last as long as I wanted them to, but I still got a decent crop of tomatoes off there. Cherry tomato, or ground cherries, are still producing. We've had some very light frosts, but it hasn't really affected the plants too much, except for the powdery mildew, which is now taking over the squash vines, but that's expected. Here we got some buttercup squash. They've done okay. They've been pretty small this year, but considering I'm a hermit, pretty much live alone, single serving squash works for me just fine. So I'm not worried about small squash. That works. Yeah, I was going to grow a bunch of asparagus and get that all planted out. Never got around to it. So I'm going to heel these in this patch and try to get a bed ready for them next year and start a whole new asparagus patch somewhere else if I can get a new bed set up and prepped for next year. Oh, over there is the last basket of patty pan squash. Just the ripe ones. As I said before, they're incredibly productive, and another 8 more there. I'll be living off of that for the next several months. Got some trees here, mulberry trees. Those should have been potted up. Those should have been planted out somewhere. Never got around to them. Lots of mulberry trees. So I'm going to heel these ones in and figure out. Well, give myself some more time to figure out what I'm going to do with all that. The last patch of squash down there, and down in here, didn't do too bad. One side got lots of shade, one side got lots of sun. And another cement tote full of squash. That's about half of it. There's about that many that are unripe still sitting on the plants. Probably going to have to pick them soon anyways. Oh, nope, there's still a few more sitting out in the path there I haven't collected yet. And I'll get around to that soon. But squash is pretty much going to be a staple overwintering food source for me. And yeah, it's probably one of the better ones to grow along with sweet potatoes and peas. and I guess beans, if you can grow them to maturity and dry them. Now this, I put in this physical barrier to try to keep the weeds from the old strawberry patch from creeping into my annual garden here. Unfortunately, they just overwhelmed and took over the strawberry patch. So this needs a definite makeover. Also the asparagus, they're just swamped. They can't grow in something like this. So I think I'm just going to have to restart the whole bed from scratch, cover it, smother it, pop in new plants. Whether I'm going to put the asparagus in here, which didn't seem to grow too well in such a wet environment. Being here along the edge of the garden, there's a bit of a trench or a shallow ditch along here, and it gets pretty wet. Strawberries do great. Asparagus, not so much. So that's why I wanted to get a different area set up for my asparagus. So I guess I'll just have to see if I can get something set up for next year. If not, yeah, whatever. I'll just grow more asparagus next year. New starts. And one of the last things I'm going to have to do once leaf fall occurs is take care of, well, in addition to getting rid of all the vegetative material in the garden, is take care of the fruit orchard. It grew great. It was extremely productive, rampant growth, and it became a nightmare. Well, not complaining. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it is a complaint, but I'm glad it works. I'm just going to have to manage it a lot better next year. So, we'll see how that goes. But lots of rampant growth. Lots of rampant growth along the grapevines. Got another grapevine just busted out along the back fence there. I can't be disappointed with that. And the oregano. This definitely has to get renovated, removed actually, just removed, so that I can turn this back into a productive space again. I mean, it's great for the bees, but I just don't need this much, and I think some smaller patches, well contained, smaller patches of oregano, all about the garden, might work a little bit better. So that's pretty much it, and going to be it for the garden for this year. It's been a great productive space, and it has weathered the season relatively well compared to a lot of other gardens, I think, just because of this no-tilling, mulched garden that, again, you don't have to water, but then again, you don't have to worry about it flooding either. There was no weeding. I don't know. This thing just works great. And, well, I'm happy to have been stumbled onto this method of gardening, and I can now enjoy the benefits of what this has to offer. It's done well, and I think it's going to continue to do well in the coming years. I just got to actually spend time managing it. All right. See you all next year.